I didn't see it. Just like the argument my wife and I had on this day last week. She claims I don't listen to her and my mindset is disastrous to those around me. Naturally, I disagreed. Today was a new topic, but the same old rattling. I couldn't bear to listen to it anymore. We were at her aunt's burial ceremony, in a remote cemetery exclusive to only the family for generations. It was a dreary, rainy day, and the big number of people that gathered were scattered about the site in their own grief and conversations. My wife and I were off to the side, engaging in our usual back and forth. "It's always the same with you," she blurted at me. "You'll never see anything from anyone else's view but your own." She stormed off into the mix of family members slowly beginning to disperse due to the rainfall. I began to follow her, but decided to catch my breath for a second, reaching toward a nearby tree. It was a strong-looking oak tree of about 70 feet, but something seemed mysteriously ominous about it. It stood alone amongst the graves with no other trees nearby, and seemed surprisingly thriving, despite its dark location in the cemetery. It had to be centuries old and ancient, but it looked like it was still growing. Its bark and branches were a blackish brown, and the leaves had an eerily red hue. I looked up to the sky as the downpour began inside. After shaking my head at the scenario, I began to walk back to the crowd. At that moment, a weird feeling took over my body when I started getting dizzy. My legs stopped working, and I kneeled on the ground to get my bearings. What's happening to me? Was it grief? Am I having a panic attack? I covered my face with my hands, wiping my face before looking up and noticing. Everything had changed. There was a strange red-orange color theme to everything around me now, and several 100 feet ahead, there was what looked like a rectangle-shaped screen floating above the ground. It was dark and smoky. I couldn't make out what was on it until I realized it was the people still at the funeral. Taking a further look, I made out it wasn't a screen at all. It was a window. A point of view, one that only showed the cemetery where I was supposed to be. Looking up, I could see a clear, open sky, but it was no longer raining, and now also a red-orange color. Something is wrong. I continued examining the sky before turning my head and stopping my heart cold out of shock. Next to me was a towering humanoid figure that was clearly not human. It stood at least 20 feet and was dark with strange and terrifying features. It had multiple sets of wings and eyes all over its pitch-black body down to its grotesque, gigantic, clawed feet. Its massive head, resembling an orb with rings of eyes circling its featureless face, which appeared to be staring straight into the same point of view. Each set of wings flapped, keeping it hovering in place. My heart froze in my chest, and I felt sick instantly before I told myself to keep calm so I wouldn't notice my presence. Following that exact thought, a thunderously deep and ancient voice spoke in my head.
"Welcome, guest,"
it said, still holding its gaze forward, not changing position. What is this place? And who are you?" I asked, trembling, equal parts terrified and in awe.
"I go by many names, none of which would matter to you,"
it began.
"And you are at the last place you'll ever be, to view the last sights you'll ever see."
My stomach sank to the ground. What does that mean?
"You have committed an offense in the presence of the great tree. For that, your punishment is to dwell in this realm with me. To look on forever from this point of view, in this place, until you fade from all existence and memory."
"No!" I yelled, panicking. "This can't be right. I don't belong here."
"It brought you here, because it will now feed off of you, as it has the millions of lost souls for eons."
"Millions?" I questioned, whilst turning around to see what was behind me. I wish I hadn't. Behind me was an endless sea of people that went as far back as to what seemed to be forever. They seemed human, but completely void of emotion or life in their eyes. They were also all pitch black and ranged in different sizes from old people to young, even children. The ones directly behind me I tried to awaken by waving my hands in front of their faces, but it did nothing, and they remained motionless, focusing on staring at the point of view.
They all came here, like you,
the creature continued.
stumbling upon this area, and now a prisoner here, for all eternity. They will gaze in one direction, view from one place, and no one will find or rescue them. They are destined to be the constant observer of a limited area from a limited point of view. They will watch as time passes by. Loved ones look for them, and those same loved ones give up until the futility of their situation drains the will to live from their souls, and the great tree is fed. This too is your fate now, the invisible observer.
Help! I yelled. Someone, please! But it was useless. Looking from the point of view, I could see no one on the outside could hear me, and I was forced to watch my family, who was quite a distance from the tree, slowly disperse and leave. Someone will come looking for me, I jabbed, refusing to be defeated. They'll come back when they realize I'm missing, especially my wife.
They will come back,
The monstrous entity explained.
but they will not find you, because they cannot see you. They will search and look right where you disappeared, but never find you, because you no longer belong to that world. You're a part of this one now. They will be right where you can see them, but contact will not be possible. Your punishment is to watch all this. Watch them helplessly search, desperately try to save you, and eventually give up and move on with their lives. They will go on, finish their lives. Their children will finish their lives. Their children's children will finish their lives. And you will be here, viewing the same sight for eternity, until you are so broken the tree can no longer feed off of you, and you disappear into oblivion, like a raindrop in a lake.
As the futility of that terrible scenario took hold of me, I began to tear, turning my gaze back out of the point of view, which was to be my only window until the end of time, or myself. Forced to look upon the same area for all eternity, the limited view of the cemetery from the perspective of the tree, in the same direction forever, to gaze upon the dead stones of those who actually had the privilege and honor to die, be buried, and probably go to an afterlife better than this. If there is a hell, it seems I found it. I took another look back at the sea of lost souls behind me, searching for someone who could help. Thinking about the creature's words, I could make out how some of them looked smaller and frailer, a lot more than they would have been if they were living their lives back in the world. They looked defeated and weak, forced to gaze at the same thing for eons and eons, took all the life from them, and they seemed smaller. In the ones that did look somewhat normal, you could make out the little fight they still had in their eyes, trying to reject this fate and hold on to hope. Turning back around to look at my newly sentenced view, I could feel my body lock in place. So it begins. I gritted my teeth, tears streaming down my face. I will fight it, I said, as strongly as I could muster.
That's all we could ever do,
He responded.
The more you fight, the more you feed the tree, and the more time you have to exist. That spirit got you here. Let's see how it continues to serve you.
More tears streamed down my face. I understood my great offense. I was a prisoner of my own demons, and it got me here. Now, I have to survive off of them, or perish forever. But I won't perish. I'll make sure of it. I'll fight to my last piece of soul. I won't disappear. I won't be forgotten. I'll keep going for eternity. I'll keep fighting and fighting. This tree, this monster, they will never win. I won't allow it. They'll never force me to see their point of view forever. Then a thought crept into my head. How many of the people behind me thought that? Was it a futile attempt? Am I just another fool? No, I can't afford to think like that. My head dropped to the ground, looking for something I could use to escape, but there was only mud. A sticky, thick, dark mud that seemed to be made of more than just dirt and water. I didn't want to know. Then I noticed a root close by, coming from the mud. It looked alive and firm, like it was thriving in this dark and evil place, almost as if it heard my thoughts. It throbbed with life and stretched towards the ground in front of me, in the direction of the point of view. It motioned for a few more seconds, before appearing to rest again. Several more roots followed its lead, as if they were all working towards the same goal. The tree was growing. Slowly, inch by inch, the roots were expanding their reach and influence, swelling their snare in my world for more victims to fall into this hellish nightmare. The people there will never see it coming, but I will, along with the endless sea of victims like me, observing from an endless oblivion. I searched for something else to fight with, but only a single tear streamed down my cheek. I was finally forced to see from someone else's point of view.